Now it should record. Yeah. Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
You guys are visiting me today and this weekend. We have three amazing young men here. So let's go around the table. Your name, age, and a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lindsay Charles, and I'm originally from India. I grew up in Qatar, moved back to India for my bachelor, moved to Norway for my master, and then decided to stay here. And I'm 28 years old now, and I'm currently working as a robotics technician at the company called 1X.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so 28, and you're soon getting married. You're engaged.
Yes, I'm currently engaged.
Awesome. Okay.
My name is Casper, originally from the Netherlands, from Holland. Moved to Norway in the end of 2012, where my parents moved and dragged me and my little brother along. We didn't have much choice. I have a bachelor in VFX, and I'm currently doing one in mechanical engineering. And got married this summer.
Awesome. Congrats.
Super cool. Hi, everyone. I am Abram Jeffrey Vinsnes. I am the son of Hans Jakob Vinsnes. Yeah. And right now, I'm age 21, and I'm studying my bachelor's inside of dance at Oslo National Academy of the Arts. And yeah, that's me.
And you just got a girlfriend.
I just got a girlfriend, and we are aiming for marriage next summer.
Okay. Does she know that?
I hope so.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. First of all, I want just to tell. Let's just talk about what you think it is how is it to be a Christian in today's world, a young Christian man. What do you find as challenging? What do you find as maybe things that has helped you? What are the things that you wish that someone maybe could help you to go through? Because you are meeting different challenges than, for example, I met. And definitely from my parents' perspective, like when they grew up, like it's a totally different world. So is there any thoughts that you made yourself about that? What do you think is challenging?
Should I start or?
Yeah, well, we can. Okay. You can start. Lindsay.
Well, what I can say is, at least to my understanding and to my background and to how I see Christianity and where I grew up, it is definitely a challenge to be a Christian, to be a young Christian in this society, in this world. I grew up in a very harsh environment for a Christian. I grew up where, of course, it's a Muslim country. I grew up in Qatar, and my parents were teachers, and they always had a heart of missions, and they were 100% or full-time teachers in their school, and all the other after work went to serving at a church, starting a fellowship. The church where it's before 2014, it was actually illegal to worship. So, to my understanding and to my challenge, it was a big challenge in itself to live in such a harsh environment as a Christian, because you're not exactly looked as the person who is obeying the country's major religion, which is Muslim, or the practice of Islam.
Yeah.
But now, currently, as I have moved into, let's say, a more European country and a more Christian country in Norway, I don't think, comparing myself, the challenge has been any different. The challenge has been there, but the surroundings has been different.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to myself, because I assumed before I came here or I had a presumption before I came to Norway and my parents also were so happy that I'm coming to Norway to study and to hopefully settle here if I would like to. But I didn't have that plans before. But my parents were very happy that I'm coming to such a Christian country. From the outside, that's how it's seen. And Christian society, the state is Christian, and Norway has sent out so many missionaries out there and everything. And once I came here, it was such a big shock for me. such a big like a reality hit in my face when I actually found out that you can't even talk to people about religion in your classes, in university or anything. It's not that you can't, but when you attempt to talk, people will not want to initiate that conversation and let you take it further, or even talk about faith, or talk about your own, what your faith, where your faith lies, or which direction you're going to, and all of that conversation is frowned upon, is what I received when I first came. Because comparatively in India or in Qatar, your faith and your religion is the strongest thing you can talk about, even to a stranger. Or the first thing you can ask is like, oh, are you Muslim, or a Christian, or a Hindu, whatever. But here, that was one big thing that I would say, that even to start a conversation about faith would be difficult. And that was one challenge in itself, that am I allowed to be vocal about what I believe in? And believe in the sense, it's not just that I believe that that this color is black and that's not black. It's not that kind of belief, but in a big, huge God belief. Like, what is my belief?
Just a question there. Do you think it's harder to be a Christian in Qatar, or do you think it's harder to be a Christian in Norway?
If you say it just, like if you want to know a very short answer, like just from a surface level, then I would say it is difficult to be a Christian in Qatar.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But to be a practicing Christian, to allow myself to be vocal about, it is almost the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I would compare myself to.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the reality that hit me.
Yeah. You, Casper?
Yeah. I'm looking, or like now trying to recollect some memories. One of the things that I think has been the most challenging is being proactive. Proactive.
Yeah.
Not fall into laziness,
Oh.
because everything is easily accessible.
Oh.
Even for those who are less fortunate and who might be considered poor, there are still a lot of ways to get what you need for day to day. It might not be the most comfortable, like we had with my family, that we often relied on other people's generosity for clothing and such. But still, as a kid, you don't notice much of that. So it's like, you just go out to play with your friends. You just do whatever you want, kind of. And then also coming to Norway, where there's even more excess in that way. There's more things to distract yourself with. There's more wealth to go around, so you have more. And even if, like in the village where we moved to Norway, if you didn't play football, you had nothing else to do outside of school. But there's still so many other things that try to grab your attention, not try to grab a hold of you. I think for many, it might be not necessarily laziness, but putting your energy into the wrong things and letting yourselves be distracted.
Yeah.
And we see it with social media, with YouTube, with gaming, with sports, with everything. There's so much that tries to grab your attention and to grab it away from your faith. And then I do agree with what you said, that in some situations it's not even accepted. Like, talk about your faith. It's like, if you want to talk about faith, you go to church. And if you then don't go to church, and it's like, then you don't talk about your faith. So I would say, like, second your point, that there isn't much space for it unless you kind of demand that space. And then just that the wealth that we have here is, for a lot of young people, it's like, why do I need God? Which is actually kind of interesting to now see that shift, that now a lot of young people are coming to faith for the fellowship, for the feeling of belonging, for having a home. Because for a lot of people, their parents' house isn't kind of their home, because they just come there to distract themselves.
Mm.
But they hardly see their parents, they hardly see their siblings because everyone is distracting themselves with other things. And then when you go to youth group, suddenly, like if you sit there with your phone, you're kind of like, why are you on your phone? Like, aren't you having like, we're with so many people, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that distraction
Do
is.
you find was a difference between being a Christian in Netherlands and Norway? Or is it a lot of the same culture and a lot of the same challenges?
It's a lot of the same culture, same challenges. I would say that in the Netherlands, people are generally more busy. And like my dad describes the Netherlands sometimes as an anthill, just because there's so many people doing so many things, and there's always so much stress, and everyone is running to do something. But other than that, I haven't experienced much because I moved when I was 12.
Yeah.
So I had my early childhood in the Netherlands, and then my teenage years, where you kind of experience more of what the world is, I had in Norway.
Understand. Okay, Abe, you are going to the most woke school in Norway, probably. How is it to be a Christian there?
That's a good question. Because like my life have always been like in two different worlds. Like you guys owned the Christian dance school, and I went to a Christian private school, and you guys were really outgoing Christian and built like my foundations in Christ. And then when you guys continued on a new path and not through the dance school, I continued dancing. I continued carrying that call and passion in my life. And I was astounded by how dark the dance community was. But I always had fellowship. I always had church. I always had you guys. So I've always lived in two different worlds. So I can only speak in the dance world or in the Christian world. But in the average day life, I can't speak. But in my school, I think the toughest thing, it is like we have class and my teachers mock Christians. They know that I'm a Christian. They mock me. They mock Christ actively in class. My classmates have called me evil, heartless, homophobic, racist, everything you hear. And they have like, for the first year, they were just like, oh, Abram is in the room. We have to drop the conversation. He's not allowed to join, because they were just like, his values are evil. But for me, I'm a really outgoing guy, and I didn't care. So that didn't affect me. I went, I talked, I shared the light, I was the light. I think for me, the toughest thing about being a Christian in that type of environment is keeping your soul pure. Not defending the truth, because I was raised in a family where all of us defends the truth, all of us discuss. But it is protecting your soul, because it is a place with so much darkness. Like if I hang out with just one of my classmates at a time, they start back talking to other people. They change naked in the public space. They sleep around, they do drugs, they do alcohol, and they offer these stuff to me all the time. The culture is laid in sin. The culture is in darkness itself. So keeping my soul pure is the hard thing.
Yeah.
Not letting my mind drift to evil. Not letting my mind be like, oh, these people are evil. Or, oh, start back talking my classmates. Start joining their culture. But keeping my soul like Christ's soul.
Yeah.
Because fighting the truth is something that I have been blessed through you. I think it's easy, but keeping a soul pure and protecting the soul have been the toughest battle.
Yeah, but you have been called all those things.
Yes.
But I've also heard that they've said that they don't really get it to fit, because you have also been the one showing the most love to them.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
For like in my class, when it comes to me, I'm a walking contradiction for them, because they have this view over Christianity. Parts of it comes from the public culture that it's a trend that we are evil as Christians, and part of it comes to that they have been hurt, that they haven't been shown love. so they have this hurt view of what God is, what Christian is. They think that God is religion, God is this evil thing that have happened in the past. But when they got to meet me, they call me these stuff, they say these stuff about me. But when they are hurt, they know that I'm always there. When they are hurt, they call me, they lean on me. They know that I always have energy to help them. So for me and for my class, in a lot of ways, for them, I'm a walking contradiction because I'm the guy who can always be leaned on, but I'm the most evil guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting, your guys' story. I had a revelation or early 2000s, and like I grew up in a Pentecostal environment in YWAM, and it was the main focus was to build a church, get people saved, get them planted in church, and that's it. And if you want to be really fully for God, you had to be in full-time ministry, and that was a pinnacle. Then you're really giving yourself to God. Then in early 2000, I started to see, well, there's more. It's not just the afterlife, but God wants to do something here. And what I've seen is like, I started to see these things, and then I got vocabulary for it. Like I started listening to a guy called Lance Wallnau, like 7-month mandate, like to disciple the world.
Yeah.
Like Matthew 28 says, like, go into all nations and make all nations disciples, teaching them everything I've commanded you. And Bill Johnson, he says, like, Jesus's focus was more to get heaven on earth than to get people to heaven. And I think a lot of Christians have had only focus to get people to heaven instead of discipling society. So how do you think that we as Christians could not just reach the individual? Because there's one thing like what Abram is saying here, for example, how he met those people in class. Yeah, he can meet those people, and that's important. But that is also just individuals. Like
Yes.
when Paul was called by God, like and Ananias came to him and says, like, you're called to Jews, Gentiles, and their kings. And he went specifically after the kings because that, like, if he got the kings, he got the people under the king's authority. So how do you think that we as Christians could more like not just be the ones that kind of get the individual saved, but how do you think that we can actually start discipling cultures or nations? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, this is, I think, it's a big question to think about. And I think now I'm only thinking a few aspects of this thing. And like one thing that that's coming up to my mind is like, let's take a generation.
Yeah.
And for me, what comes to my mind is like the youth.
Yeah.
Like the youth of my generation. I'm 28, but like for me, the youth could be between 19 and 25 or 26.
Yeah.
Like the generation just after me. And like that age profile, let's say. And like, how can I make an impact on that like a range of people? And then I think then I'm not trying to narrowing it down to, okay, in that age, in that gap of the youth, and now, like again, I'm narrowing it down to the people who are driven to technology, who are driven to the creativity, because that's who I am.
Yeah.
And I can only impact the world that I really want to be in.
Yeah.
And to use this consent, like this smallest circle that I have now defined to myself, like, okay, I want to be a light in this circle or in this group of people. And now especially in this youth, okay, now I'm trying to expand again, because now I've tried to come up with my target, and my target is in my mind. And now, since I have the target in my mind, now how does it work, or how can I impact them? And now again, I go back to the bigger view, which is, okay, now in this, the technologies, like big people who are in this technology, like let's say Elon Musk or whoever, blah, blah, blah. And these people, like, okay, how can I reach that people? Like, how can I reach them to impact them? Like, okay, how can I reach the giants of the big influencers of these people? Like, how can I reach them? Because they are the ones who kind of technically lead them into things, into creative beings. And now since I have now the smaller view and the bigger view, now I can try to, or this is my just, I'm giving you my thoughts. Now I'm trying to think is, okay, like my impact, like how can that be now? So like creativity is given by God. Technology and all the things that we've invented and what we've come up with is given by God. But the thing that I must, or what I can impact on, is to decide what it is being used for and how it is being used. And that is where I get to make an impact or a choice or a decision to say, if I have this piece of technology, if I have this piece of gear, or I'm thinking of an example, but let's take this mic, for example. I mean, I'm also into audio and stuff. Like this mic, it only receives and amplifies whatever is being spoken. So it's actually my words is now the thing that needs to be spoken. And now, like, how am I speaking and what am I speaking? Like, am I speaking good? Am I speaking life? Am I speaking things that will enrich each other? And not just in a Christian perspective, but the goodness of God. And I think that's how I would say which impacts a group of people, and in a small target, and also in a bigger way. Because now, take me for example, like I may have had some influence on people who want to be robots, engineers, robotic stuff, or even people who want to invent stuff. And that if I have showed them an example that this invention or this thing can be used for so much good, that in itself I am attempting to heal the world and to make it a better place. And for me, that is to bring the kingdom of God.
Amen.
And to bring the kingdom of God is to make this place a better world. And I believe that is my kind of ultimate goal. And of course, as you said, like one of the things that all Christians can get stuck up is like, we just want to go to heaven and nothing else. Like I'm just safe now. I've believed and I'm going to heaven. But I think where we miss is to actually bring heaven on earth, as you said, and that is a big mission. But it takes an individual to affect an individual, and that individual again becomes a big group, and to have a strategy of how we do it. That's what I would say.
I just want to throw out a few thoughts,
Yep.
and I want your feedback on those thoughts.
Okay.
And it's first of all, one thing that I've seen is that the Western culture, we're very short-term minded.
Yeah.
It's like we're looking like, and democracy in itself is a very short-term mind. Like the way that we control our nations or run our nations is like, we can only think like 4 years ahead, because then it's a new election, and if we have like a problem that needs a generation to fix, we're not going to fix it at all, because by the time we get to the next 4 years, someone else is going to come in and they're going to see there's another problem that they want to fix, and they don't agree with the problem that you thought you were going to fix. So we're thinking very short term.
Yeah.
When Abraham got the promise by God, like, I'm going to make you father of nations, he didn't see it. His son didn't see it. His grandson started to see it. Like, he had Isaac had Esau and Jacob, and Jacob had the 12 sons, and he was the one that was going to build Israel. And be the father of Israel. But so Abram got a promise and he didn't see it. But he still kept on promise, and he laid the foundation for his children and his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren. And for example, like I saw like statistics on birth rates, and Christians, like really like wholehearted Christians have more children than non-believers. But even like in the Western culture, where it's like going down the birth rate, compared to very religious other countries, like we're still a lot lower. So it seems like we have been more influenced by the culture than that we have influenced the culture, because God has called us. One of the things that God has commanded us is to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Like so we have to think long term. Secondly, there's a thing like when it comes to discipling nations, it's not necessarily building the church. The church is a part of the kingdom, but the church is not the kingdom. The kingdom involves everything. And for example, when you see people like Joseph in the Bible, like he didn't get Pharaoh saved. It doesn't say that Pharaoh became a Jew or anything like that, but he had influence on Pharaoh. The same with Daniel. It didn't see that Nebuchadnezzar got saved, for example. He was a cruel king. Like he killed everyone in Jerusalem, and then he took the slaves to the rest of the people. But Daniel had a very clear calling. So like when it comes to the kingdom, it's a lot bigger than just the church. That's number 2. Number 3, what I've seen is that God, in the Old Testament specifically, God is calling nations and cities and people groups. He's not so much like saying, you, Abram, I'm calling you to do that. He does that in specific instances, but most of the prophetic word is like, this city or this nation, I'm calling you to do that, and now you're under judgment. As a nation, you're under judgment. And for example, when in Nehemiah, when they got a call for the whole people group was to build the wall.
Yeah.
And then each person had, or each family had their part of the wall that they were going to build, and each person within that family had assignment within. So for example, like if we understand God's call for us as the body of Christ, because we're the body of Christ, and in 1 Corinthians 12 it says that we're all members of his body. So if we understand the calling of the body, like let's say building the wall, then your family, okay, it's easier for you to understand, okay, this is my part of the big calling. And then if my family or my tribe is going to build that, then it's easier, okay, if we're a tribe and we're going to build a wall, okay, this is a part of the wall that we're going to build. And then it's easier for you to understand, okay, what is your strengths and what is God calling you to do in that. So what I see the challenges here, we're short-term minded.
Yeah.
We are church-minded and heavenly minded more than kingdom-minded. And we don't, very few of us see the big picture. We only are focusing on individual instead of the collective. And the Bible there's a lot of collectiveness there, like how we as a body, we have a calling more than you as a person have a calling. So thoughts on that, and give me pushback. Is there anything you disagree with, or thoughts on that?
First thing, I agree that we have, as a society, become very short-term minded. I think has a lot to do with the heavy focus on the self, like the one individual, like it's you, it's your dreams, and I think that is stupid. Because we've seen where it takes the world. But on the other hand, in some areas, it can be smart and it can be very fruitful. And people have to discern, because sometimes it can be easier. Let me rephrase. Sometimes it can be easier to build a chair alone, but a dining set you want to build with multiple people.
Yeah.
And in some instances, you should... If you get married, you should focus only on the two of you for some time. after you get married, so that you can get to know each
Even
other.
the Bible says that if you're married, you should not
Yeah.
go into war the first year.
Yeah. But after that time, you should go back into society and you should contribute with what you can. And in that sense, I think we've become very narrow-minded. Maybe not even short-term minded, but it's about me. What can I do? What can I gather? What can I create for myself? And only then it becomes like, what can I create myself for my children, for my grandchildren? So I think we should go back to like this township, where it's like you're a town together. It's like you have the saying, right, that it takes a town or a village to raise a child. And that's because the parents cannot always constantly be focusing on the kid, because they need to cook food, clean the house, go to work, whatever. So then you need the others to, and then we've replaced that with babysitters or with other stuff or with TV. So I think we should go back to living in fellowship with people, being together. And there I disagree with you that we have become too church-minded. Because what I think happened is that the church has lost or forgotten some of its strengths. Because a church, the way that I see it, should be a community of people that are like-minded, that want to build something together. But then we've forgotten that a group of people who are on the same mindset, who have the same idea, are very powerful and can, I mean, as we see in the Bible, a group of people can change a nation.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I have to rephrase. This is what's so wonderful with the conversation instead of teaching, because what I mean is, and what I communicate is not necessarily what you hear.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that we're too church-minded when it comes to, it depends how you define church. If church is the body of Christ, the body is supposed to build the kingdom. And then we should be a lot more church-minded. But if the church-minded is to, what I'm saying like that, is, or what I meant with that is that it's all about getting people to church, get them saved, and it's like all gathered in here instead of, okay, come in here to be equipped to go out there. And it's not just to build the church as what we traditionally view church, but it's to build the kingdom, and that is a lot bigger than church. So I hope to clarify that a little bit.
And I think that is like that the church has also been affected by this short-term, short-minded mindset that the whole Western culture is in a way. There's a book that I was reminded of, where it was a book series where you follow some characters as they're kind of learning about the kingdom that they live in, and then learning about another kingdom that is going to wage war against them. And then someone tells them, it's like, oh, no, you don't understand. Like, these people, they come once every 50, 60 years. And then these kids are like, what do you mean every 50, 60 years? Like, that makes no sense. That's such a long time. And it's like, yeah, no, they and then this nation or this kingdom is like described as like a nomadic tribe, and they like ride in this big circle, but like, and then their mentor is like explaining, but that is what makes them dangerous, because they have 50 to 60 years to build up warriors and to build up their horses and to increase in numbers, and then they come as this big wave and they crash against us, and they decimate so many of our like the villages that are like on the outside of our kingdom. Because we're not prepared for that. Because we think short term, and like a war, a battle is like 1-2 years where everyone fights and then everyone goes back home. But they see it like, so we come in one wave, we crash against you, then we go back, we regroup, we rebuild, and we come back even stronger. And then that's kind of how they. And then now that I'm thinking about it, that is such a. Even taking away like the whole concept of war, like that is such a stronger way to build a group of people. It's like, we're not thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow. We're thinking about what we're going to do in 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, in 10 years from now, we'll have X amount of extra children, X amount of extra families. Okay, so we need to build 10 new houses within the next decade. We need to expand our field of grain, instead of suddenly like, oh, we have a baby boom. We have 10 new kids. We don't have anywhere to put them. It's like, no, we already planned for this because we saw that the nation is growing, so we're getting more people. And then because of the way that we're being raised, and even to think short term, because if you're at school, what are you looking forward to? Next vacation.
Yeah.
And then when you go back to school from the vacation, it's the next vacation. The next vacation is in a couple of months. And even with the work, in the workforce, is like you work for 2-3 years, then you look for a new job. And you're there for 2-3 years, and then you look for a new job, and then you're there. And it's constantly being pushed into thinking very short term to maximize your gains in those few short term years. But then you look at the people that have stayed in the same company for a decade, and the expertise that they have in that field is insane. But that gets lost if you're constantly changing up. And in that sense, if the church goes back to like where instead of building people, instead of building individuals, we're going to build nations, I think that will have a very long-lasting impact. Because then we're not just thinking about that one person that got saved. We're thinking about that great grandkids of that one person still being saved.
Any other thoughts on that?
I have a couple of thoughts.
Yeah.
I think one thing that you and Casper were talking about that was missed or didn't mention. I think you guys thought about it, but it wasn't mentioned. I think one thing that is really important is to understand, because we were talking about church and we were talking about sending people out, and you mentioned the 7 Mountain Mandate. For people who doesn't know, it is the 7 structures of how to build a civilization through arts and entertainment, family, religion, schooling, different aspects. We were mentioning all of these aspects, but I think one important aspect of this is to understand your part in the body, to understand how you are called out, because I think it's many different ways to be sent out of the church, to build up the church, to build up the kingdom of God. Like, I think, like, for example, here are two different ways. I think for me, my life right now, I am sent into a dance community that is dark, and I'm supposed to change it from the inside out. But I think other way to do it is to build your own dance company, to build your own projects, and to change the culture that way. And I think by understanding that it's different ways and to be obedient to the way that God has set you on, you are changing the culture in multiple fronts. You aren't only, this is one thing I think is a big problem with a lot of churches. They are just like, yeah, I'm a missionary and it looks this way. It looks that I go to Africa on the streets preaching. And yes, that is one aspect, and maybe one person is called to do that. But if we are obedient and understand God deeper, we understand that He is a personal being and He sends out people differently. So the way how I'm sent out in arts and entertainment, Lindsay is sent out in arts and entertainment, Casper is sent out arts and entertainment, is different. And when we understand it, we get to attack, if we are using the phrasing of war, we get to attack from multiple different weak points, multiple different perspectives, and changing not only a aspect of the culture, one part of the nation, but a more holistic view of it. And also an important part about that of understanding your role is also understanding other people's role. Who are the people who is closest to your role, who can help you? Or who are the other roles? For example, dancer. In dance, when you make a performance, you need a producer, you need a choreographer, you need dancers, you need light technicians, you need support, and you have to understand these different aspects to go in it fully. So you have to find these body parts that isn't necessarily similar, but that can help you and support. And I think one aspect is that the church in general have forgotten what their role is. That their role is, one thing I think that they have forgotten a lot is the aspect of prophecy inside of the church. That to lead the church, you need a shepherd and a prophet that sets the vision of the body in general, and then the shepherd who leads the church in that direction. I think the church have forgotten their role. They are just like, come to me, come to me, come to me, come to me, and then keep people in the church. And then they forget about their prophetic mission to send and lead the sheep out. And I think that, so conclusion is, I think that we, to do the things that you guys is mentioning, is to understand our role, other people's role, what we need in support of each other's roles, and the church's role to send out people, to have because prophets are people who have a perspective of God, have God's perspective, who sees it through the image of God, and then who can clear a way and to create an understanding, so we as followers of Christ and we as a body can move in that direction as one, in the different parts, in the different aspects.
I totally agree. One thing I want to just focus on there is that the picture you said, like those people that came in every 56 years, if they came towards, like if there was a war and you had one person that knew that he was called to war and he came by himself and up against that wall, it wouldn't make a dent. And the next person, he knew that he was also called and he came all by himself, wouldn't make a dent. It's something that we have to, there's something like to, in order to kind of, to disciple a nation, it's something we all have to see. And what I am frustrated with is that, and I'm seeking God on this, and but I don't feel like we have a vision that we all agree on. So you are doing your stuff, they are doing their stuff, you're doing your stuff, and it can be good stuff that you're doing, but we're not working together. So it doesn't become really impactful. So any thoughts?
Actually, I have a few, I think, questions which are going back to even more fundamental about our discussion, related to our discussion. And it only gives me more questions. And maybe I can just share to you the questions.
Yeah.
Like the first question itself is, we are Christians, and our faith is all about, all of our faith is in the Bible, from the Bible, and everything we do is from the Bible.
Yeah.
And according to the Bible, the word church itself, I think I was talking to this earlier, is ecclesia is what is used commonly in Greek. And I was just searching it up, but ecclesia, of course, we all know that it is not a building. And it was, as described here, as a called out assembly, or a people who are called out by God. A people who are called out by God. Like now I'm thinking, my question is like, where did it change that the church became the image, the default image in all our minds when we say church? Is a big building, a big space, a big group, a big structure. Like where did it change that our default image that comes up is a building, a thing that's controlled, a body that has an organization, a body that has structure, has rules, has regulations? Like I'm just thinking, like where did that change? And because when we talk about things, even with, let's say, that a country became Christian or the church is part of the state, like what does it mean? Because a church is not a building, it's not an organization, but a people, a called out people. And because our target or our thinking is mostly based on how our default mindset is. And I think that, so that's one question, that where did it happen? But now more thoughts is like, I'm thinking about our mindset, like what we could do as like believers, as called out believers, is to get rid of these default thinking patterns. Because I believe that that is also one trap that we have fallen into. That when did we define the church as an organization? See, I'm not saying that it's wrong. What I'm trying to say is I'm questioning it. Because I do understand how Europe has such a strong history of church, of Christianity, and how big and strong Europe is values and all its legislation is built on Christian values and the Bible. But I'm thinking about, like, I'm not questioning the intention. Like, let's say in so many countries we have these huge, beautiful churches that we actually call them churches. That we have this huge
And
the intention.
They're empty inside.
Exactly. Like they're
There's
so
no
empty
people
inside. Yeah.
inside.
Like, and that is being called as church.
Mm.
And of course, there's no bad intention to these builders, to these huge architectures, that this place was supposed to be used for that. Their intention might never have been to make people's mind think of a building when you say church. But it has been a default mindset that we have fallen into, is what I think.
Yeah.
And I'm questioning, like, where could that happen and how we could actually switch our mindsets to think of as a group of people and not an organization that runs this way and it has to be this way. If it's not this way, then it's another organization. If it's not this church, then it's another church.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where one of the challenges that I see.
I think that has a lot to do with upbringing.
Yeah.
Because, like, thinking about it now, I've never really, until recently, never really thought of the church as the building. Because every time we spoke about it with my parents when I was younger, they referred to the church as the group of people, not the building. It's the church building. We're going to the church as the people, or we're going to the building to meet the people. And I think there the distinction might have gone, I don't know if you want to call it like gone astray or whatever happened, that over time, because humans are very good at streamlining things, right? We make things easier. We make things easy to recognize and all that stuff. So then instead of referring to, like, saying like, well, we're going to meet these group of people, the church, like, we're going to go to the church. And then what's the first thing you see when you go to the church is the building, because that's the location where the people gather. And I think that just through recognition and like pattern recognition, everything, which we humans are very good at, that slowly started morphing it from the group of people, like the people that gather, to just the building, because the people that gather are in the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Well,
one
yeah.
response. But I totally agree to that. But I think what my emphasis is on is that, like, when Jesus mandated that we are supposed to make disciples and we are supposed to go out and make disciples, like, even the example that Jesus was, it's like a paradigm he was, that he didn't have an organization, he did not have like a, what do you call, like, set of things that you must have, and you must be in this building, or you must be outside, or you must be in a tent, or you must be in a park, or wherever. So yeah, it's more like a emphasis on how we have defaulted to something, and the mindset itself is what I think is the start to change. Yeah.
Well, I have a few thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Like, I've asked myself for 20 years the question, what is church? I still haven't landed on it.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things is that the first kind of visible temple was the tabernacle, and it was a place, it was a set place, it was something you could see. And the first one ever in scripture that was filled with the Spirit was the guy that made those things in the temple. The first recognition of the guy filled with the Spirit. And then you had Solomon's temple, and it was him wanting to build something for God. Remember, God did not command that. God commanded the tabernacle, and that moved wherever the ark felt. But it was a physical object. Even the ark was a physical object, and the tabernacle was also something that was physical, but that was moved around. God didn't command to build a temple. It was a wish for David, because he said, like, how can I live in all this luxury with these beautiful houses, and you're living in a tent, God? So we want to build a temple. And I think that is also something that I think a lot of cathedrals were built from that heart, David's heart. Okay, Lord, how can you, I want to build something for you. And there is a lot in the Bible about specific locations, like what you said, like the Temple Mount is where Abraham probably sacrificed Isaac.
Yeah.
It's the Temple Mount, and it's also the place where Jesus was sacrificed. There's something in the vicinity or the location, a geographical place, like Jacob laying on the stone, and then he has this dream. He sees ladder going up to heaven, and he sees angels coming down and going up. And even like, have you ever been in a church building or a place, and like, even like you said, coming into this house, or I don't know if it was you that said it, there's, if you have a physical place where people have prayed, where people have worshiped God, they can almost kind of open up the heavens, so that when you come into that place, there's an open heaven there. Like, for example, I went to Living Word, I believe it's Wood in Sweden, Uppsala, and when I came into the building, I haven't followed the church at all, really, but when I came into the building, I could feel the presence. So I think there's something there, but I think that it's a lot of time it has become corrupted. Rick Joyner had a dream many years ago, and he saw where he saw the church, and he said that he saw a picture of a big island, and on the island was all different kind of houses, and it was a city on the island, but the city was ugly because there were new houses, old houses, tall houses, small houses, everything. So it didn't seem to be anything that was like a overarching plan for the city. And then in each house there was people, and in each house you had people that had a light in them, and in each house you had people that didn't have a light in them. And then they came away from the ocean, and it just came over the whole island, and it crashed everything. The only thing that was left on the island was the people that had light in them, and they came together, and they became a house, and they became the stones of the house, so they became a living house. And in the Bible, like in the New Testament, it says like we are living stones. So, and there has been a lot of people that has prophesied that in a few years, maybe in a decade or so, what we will consider then as church is not going to look anything like when we think church now, we think a building and some people that agree on some certain kind of theology, and that's that church, and that's that church. But there's going to come a time when that is not going to be even a definition of what a church is. So that's my thoughts on it. So I think that we're moving away from, and as I said, I'm not necessarily against having a building, but that is not the goal. Like, it's like David, he built a temple for God because he loved God and he wanted to honor God with what he built.
Yeah.
Agree? Disagree? Any thoughts?
I have a couple of thoughts of what both of you guys have said. Because, what you say that is true about like physical things. It says in the Old Testament that the rocks will be witnesses.
In the New Testament, the rocks will cry out and sing praises.
Also that. But you see that it is a lot of locations, a lot of physical things that can carry a lot of truth, carry a lot of things. But I think the biggest problem in what you were bringing up, Lindsay, with what is the core of the word and the understanding is not that we view church as a physical space, but that we have viewed it so small that it's only a physical place. Because if we understand God, He's the God who created everything. He is the God who created...
Turn your microphone towards you.
He's the God who created the heavens and the earths and everything we understand and can comprehend. He's a God of knowledge. And if we look at Him as like young Christians in Norway, we get preached a lot about that God is the Lamb, that He is loving, that He was a sacrifice. And if we have that perspective, then we can also view God as, if we only have that perspective, we view God as weak and loving and allows everything. Oh, I love you, so you can do what you want. But that is one aspect of God, the Lamb. The other aspect of God that is the, yes, it's the lion. So it's the complete other aspect. And when we understand both, we can understand a clearer view of who God is, okay, a deeper understanding of what God is. And it is a wide aspect between the lion and lamb. If we look at earth, it's no two animals that can be more different than the lion or the lamb, except both are land animals. But he is also viewed as a bird. So it is this deep depth inside of Christ and God, and I think it's a deep depth in every aspect, the church and everything. That's why I think the dangerous place is when we put borders around God, because my understanding of God is that He's a personal being, and when we understand that He's a personal being and that He have created all of us unique and all of us different, then we can let Him move in the way He wants to move. That if you have a calling over being a missionary, it doesn't mean you are going to go and preach on the streets in Africa.
No.
It can mean something a lot different than that, a lot deeper. And then we have to understand the depth behind God, and that He is a personal being, and that it can be many aspects over the word missionary, over the words building, over the word church. Yeah. But as soon as we say that this is the only way, that a church is only a physical place, that being saved is only through telling the story about you were a sinner, if it's only these ways, then the danger comes, because then we cannot...
Then you're limiting God.
Yeah, then we are not letting Him move.
That's actually a bit of a point that I also would like to get your guys' perspective on this, with going a bit from like what the church is or isn't, or like has been doing wrong, is doing right. What could the church start doing? Because one thing you mentioned is that everyone is called to be a missionary, because we're all called to give a good report of the love of Christ and what God has done for us in our lives, wherever or whenever we're asked to, right? But one thing that the church has been really good on is training missionaries, sending people out. And this is my wife that said it, and she's always very annoyed when you have a pastor that is like, oh, it's so good that we have people that are starting to become doctors and lawyers and everything, but we should all be... And then he drags the whole thing back to missionaries to send out, to go into the mission field. But then we forget that we're all, in that sense, ambassadors for Christ wherever He sends us. And not everyone is going to be a missionary sent into Congo or sent into Norway or sent into China or wherever. Most of us will be sent into a workplace. Yeah. And the thing that annoys my wife so much is that the part of expertise in a field of study is often forgotten in the whole mix, because it takes about 10 years to build a career, from beginning to study that field to having the first few years as your junior or internship to actually having like a future in that career. Like you for example, this is like your 5th year kind of working as an engineer, right?
No, actually it's third. Entering into 4th.
Yeah, after 5 years of studies.
4 plus 2, around 6.
Yeah,
6 years of study.
Exactly. And you could have spent the time being a missionary, but you've decided to spend the time becoming an engineer, because you feel like that's where God is placing you to be a light in that atmosphere. And I think that is one aspect that the church could become very strong at. If we all gather to help people, build people up to like, you want to become a lawyer? Great. Let's get you the best law degree you can so that you can help defend innocent people in a courtroom. You want to be a doctor? Awesome. Let's help you become the best doctor you can be so that you can help people in medicine. You want to become a carpenter, whatever. And that we, as this group, this body of people, help the society that we are part of. Instead of closing ourselves off and just doing our church thing, it's like, let's, to put it that way, let's attack society to take it back, in essence. Because even if you look at what Paul was doing, is that he was a tent maker.
Yeah.
So when he wasn't preaching, he was making tents. And being the tent maker was what supported him in a lot of places in his life. And then he would travel to another place, he would kind of set up shop, make tents while preaching. And if we start to go in towards that direction, I think we will have such a bigger impact, because then we're going away from, we constantly need to be sent out, and only once I'm sent out, I should evangelize, to like talking to your coworker at work that you see is struggling. Because then suddenly you are both empowered from the church with like, this is how you share the gospel, this is how you share your testimony, and then having that knowledge of the Bible to then be able to see that your coworker needs help.
Yeah.
But because you're not in like the mindset of like, oh, I can only do this if I'm like out on the street evangelizing, I think will for a lot of people be a lot easier to then approach their coworker.
Yeah.
Totally agree. The only thing with that, I totally agree. So there's not but it's also. I think that if because the church, and after this I want to go back to actually talking about marriage, because it's very connected, church and marriage. Since Jesus said, I'm the bridegroom and the church is the bride. But the church, it says that Jesus went down or up to heaven and brought gifts to the church. And they were apostles, prophets, pastors, evangelists, and teachers. And their assignment was to equip the works to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. The work of the ministry, your ministry may be a carpenter, or your ministry may be a dancer, your ministry may be a robotics. So how that is your ministry, but the prophets or the fivefold ministry gifts is actually supposed to equip you to be the most efficient minister in the field you are.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you do that in your family, and then you have someone here in Trondheim doing that, and then it also becomes, it's like you're shooting, like you have this big wall, like back to the picture that you had, like with the coming 50, 60 years, like with the whole army, you're coming like 2 and 3, and it's like you're hitting a wall, but it doesn't really bring an impact. So I think that we need to have the bigger vision, so that we all understand, okay, this is my part in the big picture. And if we don't see the big picture, it only becomes my part, and So, but I want to...
Wait. I would do one thought. One
Yeah.
thought. And a quick, but what Casper said. And I, from another perspective, I think what you said was really good, Casper. And if we look at it through the other lens of the people who are not saved, I know a lot of people fear becoming Christian because they think that they have to lose their entire life, their entire passions, everything that God have put on their heart, every creativity, every good thing that God have given them. They think they have to cast it away to live a Christian life, to go and live on the street. These are their perspectives. But when we start showing them, like for my example, my class cannot comprehend sometimes that a Christian can also be a dancer. They do not understand it because they think it's a separate thing. And I know other people, a couple of my other friends in Trondheim, people do not comprehend that they enjoy playing soccer, or they compete competitively in skiing. They think that being a Christian is separate from this, that you cannot do this. And I think it will release a lot of freedom over people who do not know Christ to be more open to Christ.
But, that is also like the one thing I've learned when I was 18, 19, I was very black and white. And the older you get, the more wisdom you get, you see that the path of truth or the path of life is always in the middle between two ditches. Like Jesus is the lamb, but if you only see him as a lamb, you're ending up in a ditch.
Yeah.
He's a lion. If you only see him as a lion, you end up in a ditch. And you have to see both. And so even there is like, for a lot of people, becoming a Christian means that you say, you give up everything else.
Yeah.
But not for everyone. And the thing is that if you have a view of God, that God is a loving God and he is the most amazing thing that is out there, then that sacrifice is going to be small. So just a caveat to that.
Yeah, I
that
understand.
It can be that, because Jesus said like to the rich young ruler, you have to sell everything and give everything you have to the poor.
Yeah.
So that can happen. But I want to jump into, because you are married, you are hoping to get married, and you are getting married. And I'm going to throw a few things out that is, if you preach this in most churches, you're going to be thrown out. If you say it even to most Christians, you're going to be thrown out. In Ephesians 5, I'm going to look it up here.
Me too.
Ephesians 5, from verse 22. It says, wives, before I start, you as Christian men, if you ask any Christian man that has been Christian more than 5 minutes, I'm sure that he understands the standard of a Christian man in marriage. What is the standard? You should love your wife.
Yes.
Right?
Like Christ loved the church.
Like Christ loved the church. And the thing is that if your wife is not lovable, does that matter?
Nope.
No, because your calling is to still love your wife.
Yes.
Has nothing to do with her, because it's the commandment to you as a husband by God. You're going to love your wife. So even though if she's a bitch, it doesn't matter. You're going to love her. But I doubt that most Christian women even understand the standard that God puts on them. Because we as men, we understand we know what the standard is, and we all realize that we don't live up to it. Because we haven't become like Jesus yet.
Yeah.
At least I haven't. So let's read. Verse 22, Ephesians 5.
Yes.
Wives, submit yourself to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. I'm going to come back to this, but I just want to read the rest of the chapter first.
Yes.
Verse 25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church, for we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. So, one thing here, like it says a lot more about the husband than the wife. Like there's 3 verses for the wife and 8 verses for the husband. So we have a
Big job.
big job. But one thing I want to say here, because we had talked about church now, and looking around in the Western church, the church in Norway, and even my own life, like, does a church in Norway submit to Christ in everything?
Nope.
Like, if the Bible is the Word of God, and I believe it is, we are constantly fighting, well, that doesn't really matter. Well, he didn't really mean that. We're living in a different time now, so it doesn't really matter. So we're constantly fighting against what God has already said in his word. And I think these two are related, because wives, submit yourself to your own husband as you do to the Lord. We don't submit to the Lord as a church. And I don't see the wives submitting to their husbands. Because it says, wives, submit to your husband in everything. Like, for example, if we're going that direction, and if me and you agree that we're going that direction,
Yeah.
submission is no needed, because we agree on the direction. Submission comes when you want to go there and I want to go there. Someone has to submit. Right? That's where submission comes in. And submission is not about controlling, like, you better get in line, woman, or something like that. But it is about, this is a call to the wife to submit to her husband. Just as, and it doesn't say here that if you have a horrible husband, does that give freedom for the wife not to submit? That's a challenging thing. Do you find that? Like, well, wives, submit yourself to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. But if your husband is a jerk off, you don't have to submit to him. Does it say that? It doesn't say that to your husbands. Like, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Well, except if she's just a horrible, horrible woman. Then you don't have to love her. So this is not, it's not my job as a husband to say to my wife, you better submit. And it's not the job of the wife to say to her husband, you better love me. But this is what God says to husbands, and this is what God says to wives. And the breakdown of the marriage, that has an impact on how we do church. And how we do church also has an impact on the breakdown on the family. So they're both influencing each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, any thoughts on that?
I have some thoughts if you want to continue
Go
thinking.
ahead.
Well, before you come with a thought,
You're the married one.
First Corinthians. Let's read one more verse, because this just makes it a lot more fun. No, it.
Fun. Yay.
First Corinthians 11.
Oh, almost there. 11. Which one?
I think. From verse 7. A man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God. But woman is the glory of man. For man did not come from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for woman, but woman for man. It is for this reason that a woman ought to have authority over her own head, because of the angels. I don't know what that means, but before. Nevertheless, in the Lord, Woman is not independent of man, nor is man independent of woman. For as woman came from man, so also man is born of woman. But everything comes from God. So this has nothing to do with value. It has to do with authority and positioning. So, yeah, now you can come with your thought.
So in this whole submitting to one another and that whole regard, I think one of the important things that has been forgotten is the responsibility.
Yeah.
Because as the man, the Bible tells us to be the head of the family, tells us to be the leader. A leader is responsible for the group of people that he leads. The Bible is very clear about that pastors and teachers will be held to a higher standard on Judgment Day for what they taught and for what their congregation did, because they were responsible for them.
Yeah.
And I think the importance of carrying responsibility has been forgotten in that sense, or been neglected, or whatever term you want to put on it, where the whole aspect of I am a leader, therefore I am responsible for these people. Because if you are a respectful leader and you show that you care about the people that you're leading, and you care and you take responsibility for the wrongdoings, you don't claim the victories, but you claim the failures, because that's, in my mind, what the carrying responsibility should be. When everything goes right, you're the last to get any of the glory. When everything goes wrong, you're the first to be blamed.
Yeah.
And that whole aspect has been forgotten, because if you have a leader, and a lot of people will experience this at work, if you have a manager who is a really good manager, who cares for the people under him in his team and takes responsibility, you naturally submit to your manager, because you know that your manager has your best interest in mind as well.
Yeah.
And I see that in families where the husband takes responsibility and takes that ownership over, I am the leader, therefore I carry this family. The children are very often disciplined, or at least listen to what their parents say, and the wives are submissive to their husbands, because they know that no matter what happens, my husband will protect me. I'm his, like, me and the kids, as the wife and the kids are the first responsibility of the husband. If anything goes wrong, he's the first to jump in to try and fix it. And then you naturally want to submit to that person. Because in the same way, there were some people that did a study. Unfortunately, I can't quote who did it, but I heard it in another podcast, that they did a study where they asked a bunch of men, like, their requirements, quote unquote, for a wife. None of them was love. None of them was like, I need to love her, she needs to love me. Because that was a underlying implicit thing that would be there. Because of course you would love your wife as a husband. And if we naturally love our wives, and we naturally have that ownership of responsibility, and we show that we are responsible for what we do, I think this whole passage will never be a problem in your marriage. That, like, the wife will naturally want to submit, because she's like, whatever happens, he will rescue me, and, like, to say it that way.
But then my question goes on, because this passage isn't talking about what if you have a perfect husband, what if you have a perfect wife. This passage is talking about us humans who are imperfect. And I do agree with you that one aspect it have been lost, that the men haven't been sacrificial enough by taking the blame and giving the glory. But this passage is about when they do not take the blame, when they do not give the glory, still submit. Same with the men, when they do not submit, when they do not deserve love, still love them. This passage is not about when they do, but when they don't.
Yeah.
So my question would be about how do we place deep roots in foundation of marriages, in foundation of Norway, in churches is when they don't, not when they do, but when they don't. How do we still learn to love, and how do women still learn to submit?
And in that regard, the whole Bible is what we should do when we don't do it. And I do agree with you that
Do you know what?
marriage
I
will
just
never-
want to thank you, Casper, because that was convicting for me. Like, that was a really, I see in my life that I don't want to take the blame.
Me neither.
And I sometimes want to have the glory.
Mm.
So thank you. I was very convicted there. It was really good. So I have a long way to go to live up to that.
And the same for me.
Yeah.
That will be for everyone.
But the thing that I think is interesting is that how this has such an impact on how we also see church.
Mm.
Because when you start redefining what marriage is, you will automatically redefine what church is. Like, for example, this trans question. It's not just a natural question. So it's at the core a spiritual question. Because God said, like, I created man and woman in my image. Like, I created mankind in my image as man and woman. So when you start screwing up with that, you're actually tinkering with the picture that God put down in creation. In the same way, the only picture that we have of Christ and the bride as us, as a church, is marriage. And when we start redefining that, it has such a huge impact. So it's not just well, they should get their own rights, like, for example, gay marriage and stuff like that. It is the foundation of how we view the world. And so it has tremendous impact. So any last thoughts on this?
I mean, I'm not married yet, so I cannot speak on behalf of the married people. But what I can say from hearing you is like how the natural course has to be and how the natural course tends to be. And I think I like what you say. I think we can look at it from different vantage points. This passage, this section of the Bible. And one vantage point that I'm looking at right now is because this book or this letter was written to the Ephesians. And since the Ephesians were Greek, I suppose, and they had a Hellenistic culture.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at from more vantage point of culture. So this is a description of what Paul says the culture should be from a vantage point. And he's talking to a people who do not have this culture, is what I'm thinking. That's my assumption. So if we have gone away from this culture, it means he's talking to us. He is talking definitely to us if we have gone away from this culture. And to my knowledge and to my observation, not talking about any statistics or anything, but just in general, I think we have to take this really to heart, at least me, personally speaking, that I do not want to go away from what is being described here and is spoken to, maybe not me, but is spoken to a culture or to the people of the Ephesians who are having a very, like another culture. Because for me, I think it's that's what the vantage point, that's what I see. That's a thought.
Just a couple of things here, and then I would like to, coming to an end here, but there's a couple of things. There's nowhere in the Bible where women are called to agape their husbands. Because here, husbands, love your wives, the word there is agape. So the only place that it's called to for women to love their husbands is when Paul talks, I think it's in Timothy or Titus, where it says like, you older women teach the younger women to love their husbands and their children. And that word is phileo, or it's more like a friendship kind of love. It's more respectful kind of love. It's like, it's not the God's kind of love where it's like so totally unconditional. But also there, like for, I think this is both for husbands and wives. You are married, you're hoping to get married soon, and you are getting married soon. I think one of the best things for marriages is to have, to seek out a couple that has a marriage that you aspire to be like, and to learn from them. Because, like, I've been married for 25 years now, and there's so many things I wish I did different. And, but I was left a lot to myself in a way. And like, it's not just about getting teaching, it's about being in a room with someone, doing life with them, sitting and kind of taking off the mask. Do you know what? I hate my wife today. What should I do with that? It's like being honest and take off your mask. Like First John says, like, if we walk in the light as he's in the light, we will have fellowship with one another. And walking in the light means, that's not meaning like walking perfectly. It means like taking off the mask. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, like, if we see his glory with unveiled faces, that means that you're taking off the mask. Then you will be transformed into the same likeness. Yeah. So so my encouragement to you guys all is to find a couple that you really aspire to be like, and to learn from them, and to let them see into your life your ugliness, your because none of us are perfect, and you can be pretty ugly sometimes in your deepest, darkest. You can be that. You can be that. I am that. And to be with some older men or some older couples that, you know what? I'm so old, I know that you are not like Jesus yet. You still have the flesh to battle with, but I will love you and I will stand with you. So I think that's and that's a little bit about the generational, what we talked about first, like to be long-term visionary, and I think that it's so important to learn from the people that has gone before us, because there's a huge difference between theory and practical. There's a huge difference, but any final words on marriage? Thoughts?
I have two that I was kind of thinking of as you were speaking, that we should also take into account like the long-term view. Look at the marriage of your parents and your grandparents and learn from that. Yeah. Like, what do they do that I absolutely love and adore about them? What do they do that I dislike about them? And then look into yourself and like, am I doing this? Am I naturally inclined to do this? Because we all copy our parents, right? Yeah. And then try to see when those things happen and try to steer yourself away from it. And one of the things that I'm very thankful for from my parents is how open they were about everything. And like when Ruth and me got engaged, they were just like, if any question you want to ask, we will answer to the best of our ability. And like when my dad says any question, he meant any single question. Like from like wedding vows to sex life to children to retirement, like anything. And he would ask to the best of his ability. For then the three of us, and for you to then be open to the generations that come behind us, to our children or people that approach us, to just be as open and just whatever you want to learn from me, I will to the best of my ability teach you, because and that comes into the mindset of I do not want my children to repeat my mistakes. No. And I know that my dad has learned a lot of the things that he doesn't want to do from his dad. And then he's been very open about those things when it does happen, so that I can be even more aware of it when I am inclined to do so. And the second point is you should have, I mean, of course, everyone should have friends, but the friends that you have, and especially like your closest friends that you go to, like you say, when you really don't like your wife that day, when you come to them to say, like, I really don't like my wife today, or like we've been fighting or whatever, those 2-3 friends, without fail, they should always defend your wife. Always. No matter how much of a crazy, despicable thing she's done, they should defend your wife because you chose your wife. You chose her to be with her the rest of your life. So whatever happens, they should defend her so that you will return to her. In the same way that wives should have some friends that they go to when we do something extremely stupid. And those friends should defend us. Not in the like for example, crazy thing.
Not defend the action, but
Yeah,
defend
like
the person.
your wife totals your car. They shouldn't be like, oh yeah, like it's not her fault. Like the road was slippery. It's like, no. Your wife totaled your car. So you fix that. You talk to the insurance, and you like, but you should not have them sit there with you and like talk bad about your wife. No. They should be there and like, you chose this woman, so you better fix that broken car wreck. And like I got that advice somewhere, and I've really been trying to live in that sense as well. That like no matter how angry I am at Ruth, I need the people around me to defend her. Because I want to come back to her at the end of the day and make all of it right. Because I mean, even as the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your grievances. That would be
You
my...
have a lot of wisdom for your young age. Yeah.
Thank you.
Last question. Now,
Actually, can I
Yeah.
add one more point? I just was thinking about it. It'll be short. This is more like an introspective point. It is, again, going back to our hearts and minds. One thing I was just thinking about is, or at least foreseeing what could be the issue in my maybe married life is, it could be also everybody's, and the introspective thought is that we design or we live out our lives in a default mode.
Yeah.
Every action, every choice, every thought we do, we live out in default mode. And once I enter into marriage, what I foresee is all my default settings will be challenged. So
Yes,
all
they
of these,
will.
so when all of these settings are challenged, I must go into it that my default settings will be challenged. And once it's challenged, that I must be ever so humble, that I must love what is being pointed out and make the adjustments to the default settings so that the married life can be happy.
Yeah.
That's the introspective
Yeah.
thought.
They will be challenged. Yeah.
I find it such a good image, like the default settings, the default way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, just to make it more practical for the listeners.
That's good point. And the interesting thing is that when you get married, it's before you get kids, it's one thing, but there's so many things that comes up when you get kids. For example, like Christmas traditions that you didn't really think about when you were just the two of you.
Exactly.
And then it's like, well, this is how we did Christmas. Of course we do that. You don't do that.
Yeah.
And there's like it's fun, but it's the best. Like I think it was Martin Luther. I've heard that he said that because he was a monk, and they live a pretty strict life. And he said that, but he got married later in life, and he said that he knew nothing about sanctification before he got married, because when you it's so easy to come across as wonderful when you don't wake up with the person, and you don't. But when you wake up with a person, they see you at your lowest. They see you at your ugliest.
Yeah.
They know how far from perfection you are. So, and that's challenging.
But it's also
So-
a good thing.
Yes, it's
Everyone needs people that are in their deepest and see them at their most raw, so that we day by day we can become more like Jesus.
Yeah.
And that we don't even have the chance to put on a mask.
No.
That the mask is like it's always off
Yeah.
in those settings, and that way we are kind of forced to be shaped more like Jesus.
Amen. Okay, last question. You've been here now for my son Abraham. You took your friends here, these two and their fiance and his wife. For you two that has come to this house now, and you stayed here for the weekend, how has it been? And what, any experiences you can share?
It's been awesome. It's been great. Like me and my fiance, we went through some very difficult and challenging and harsh couple of weeks, maybe a little more. Just before this, just before this, we came here to this this wonderful place, and I think we came here because it was God's plan. Although we planned it previously, I think all of this came out to be such a perfect timing and the perfect will of God that we were here. And to speak a little words about our experience here, it's been amazing. It's been so calming and it's been so relaxed, like just so relaxed. And the view is incredible. The location is like perfect for going off on a retreat and just relaxing and being around people who, you know, who encourage you, who give you a safe space to just be yourself and to let loose whatever is inside. If it's bad, if it's good, if it's ugly, if it's clean, if it's really delightful. It is just a safe place to be. And I think yesterday when we were just chatting with you and Tanya, we felt like we could, you know, just be here and express ourselves. I think to me, one of my biggest love languages that I've discovered with my own love language that I've discovered is to have freedom of expression. And that is how I feel loved. And that's what I can say, that I was very free to express myself. And that made me feel very much loved.
Well, it's wonderful having you here.
Yeah.
Casper?
It was, for the two of us, very nice to just be out of all the things going on. Just be like, to not even have the ability to be like distracted or look at it or whatever, to just be out of everything that's going on. And it's also helped us realize that, because we both people that want to do a lot of stuff most often at the same time, which usually doesn't work. But we've kind of both come to the realization that we should do 2, max 3 things at the same time when it comes to like building up yourself or what you're focusing on. That especially in this season, we should focus on the two of us, making sure that we get used to all of the new things and like get good sleep, get good rest, and build those healthy habits. And also focus on where we are in life right now, which is in school. And we have exam coming up, so we should focus on our exams and try to not be distracted by everything else that we could be doing. And I think it's been very refreshing for the both of us. For me, it's been quite a interesting experience because 2 evenings ago, we were watching a movie. And in that movie, you have the movie's called Klaus. In that movie, you have the character Klaus, who is making toys for children. And he is just giving these, he's like Christmas movie, so it's like Santa Claus, of course, who's then giving these gifts, these toys, free of charge to the children. And as we're sitting watching that movie, that aspect of it just punched me in the gut, like really with such a sense of purpose. Whereas like, and then a lot of the things and a lot of the locations and the gifts that God have given me kind of mashed together and like gave me such a sense of purpose of like making toys for children, not for like becoming the biggest toy company, but probably becoming the worst toy company because I'll be giving them away for free. But that aspect, and then you told me also in the car that for you it makes perfect sense getting to know me and like how creative I am and how driven I am to create things, to then do it in this way, and going in a bit in line with the movie to bring joy to the children, to make these toys for no other reason than to give the children a bit of light in the world that is so dark and is trying everything it can to snuff out any little light that pops up. So that was a very, very interesting experience. I'm going to pray a lot about it. And other than that, we haven't really had a moment to like debrief on our experience here, because I think she also had quite interesting experience coming here.
You, Abe, how has it been to have your friends here?
For me, I've been a lot different than you guys because in a lot of ways I'm coming home. The home I was raised in, the home I grew up in. I'm also introducing my friends to where I grew up, to my heritage, to my history. So I'm coming here with a different view, but also like them, I have been maybe overworking, pushing myself too hard.
That's not maybe.
Okay, but I've come home to also rest. And then when I came home, I started to think, why is this place so restful? Why is it that not only my mind can rest, not only my body, but my spirit? Because I know people, Christians, who have Christian parents who do not go home to their parents to rest. No. So it has to be something different than just I'm going home to my parents, that I'm able to rest. And I think the reason that this place is a place where you can be open, the Spirit can move through you, I think it's because of the time you have used of sharing the love of Jesus in this place through years of ministry. I remember waking up, going out in the living room and seeing like 30 missionaries laying on our floor, and then we're waking all of them up, preparing food, and then having a great day with them. I remember having conferences here, having discussions here. This is a place that have been invested time, that the foundation is soaked in the presence of God. I remember growing up here, you guys left, and like in all horror movies, the place where you get killed is on the mountain alone in the middle of nowhere. But I just felt a complete peace in this house because of the foundation and time that you guys as parents have used to soak the foundations in the love of Christ, in the truth of Christ. And I think that's why it can be such a powerful experience for you guys to come here, is because of the time spent in the Spirit that you guys have laid the foundations in this house. Not only in you guys, but in this house, in this place.
And I'll be coming back. And I'll be coming back.
Me too.
Definitely.
Oh, you're definitely welcome. So, well, thank you guys so much. It has been amazing to get to know you guys a little better. I have great hopes for all of your futures. I hope to come to India.
Yeah. For sure.
I would love to hang out with you more, and I know that we'll be seeing a lot of each other. So hopefully. So bless you, and know that we really appreciate having you guys here. So God bless.
God bless.
Take
God
care.
bless. Thank you.